Okay, I think this is maybe a good place to start. So I'd like to say, good afternoon and welcome, and thank you so much for joining us for our Math and Chemistry Placement webinar for first-time, first-year College of Natural Science and Mathematics students. We want to congratulate you on your admission to CSU Long Beach. So just a little bit of housekeeping at the top. Let's go ahead and start with introductions. I guess I'll start with myself. My name is Shannon Durbin. I'm the Academic Advising and Retention Coordinator for CNSM's Academic Advising Center. And let me hand it over to my co-presenter, Tim.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. Okay, for everybody, my name is Tim Calioma. I'm one of the Senior Academic Advisors in the College of Natural Sciences and Mathematics. So welcome.
Thank you, Tim. So just a few things to note about this webinar today. We have disabled the video and microphone. That's just so we can have kind of a smooth presentation here because we will be posting this later on for students who weren't able to attend and for students who are attending and might want to review this information again. That being said, we really welcome your questions. So please feel free to use the question and answer feature at the bottom of your screen. Those questions will be answered throughout the presentation today, and then we'll have a moment or two at the end of the presentation to address any other questions. We do want to note, though, that we're going to stay on topic for this webinar. So any topics that diverge from math or chemistry placement, we're not going to be addressing those today, but we really do encourage you, because I'm sure as you're watching this, other questions will pop up that will maybe be just a little bit off topic. You're more than welcome to email us. We're going to put our email in the chat, our CNSM advising email. You can reach out to that email at any time with questions you may have. But we also want to encourage you to reference our incoming CNSM first-time, first-year guidance website. You'll find this information among many other resources, deadlines, details, links to resources. So that'll really be your go-to throughout the summer. And that will also include links to future webinars that might focus on some of the other questions you might have. We will have upcoming webinars in June that will focus on advising and registration, as well as our Beach XP learning communities. So you can find all that information on our CNSM first-time, first-year guidance website, which will provide that in the chat as well. And then I would say, lastly, we will be posting this recording. So don't worry if something slips by today, we'll be posting it on that website, the incoming CNSM first-time, first-year student guidance website. And then last on this slide, I would say, please regularly check your primary email address and your new CSULB email address. As we are moving into the fall semester, we're going to increasingly be contacting you at your CSULB email address. And so you're going to want to get used to checking that regularly because we will be sending you important information to that specific email address. So this is our agenda today. We wanted to keep it, to the point of math and chemistry placement. So we'll start with just a little bit of context as to why this is a really important part of what we're doing this summer to get you set up for your fall semester. We'll talk real briefly about the placement schedule, and then we'll go into some details around mathematics placement and chemistry placement. And in addition to posting your questions to the Q&A provided in this webinar, we'll also answer any additional questions we might have at the end of this presentation. So why is math and chemistry placement important? Well, it's really very important. We know that students are coming in with all different levels of calculus and chemistry preparation. And so what's really important to us is that you are going to the class that you're ready for. So that means, for students, we wouldn't want to place you in a course that you're not prepared to excel in. And we certainly wouldn't want to place you in a course where you're already over-prepared and it's below your level of preparation. So placement is really important in math and chemistry. And we want to make sure we're putting you in the right place so you can succeed. In addition to that, course placement, helps us as advisors make sure that we're giving you the correct courses and kind of setting you up for success in your first semester. And, it can also let us know if there are any other support services or resources that we might want to attach to your placement to make sure that you're just set up for a great and balanced fall schedule. So briefly here, we wanted to show some of the upcoming deadlines. Again, I want to share with you that you can find all of these deadlines and a ton more details on our summer SOAR guidance for incoming CNSM first year students. You're going to find not only these dates, but descriptions of these key benchmarks and to-dos. But I will just briefly go over some of the key ones that are coming up. So we do ask all of our students to fill out the CNSM first year advising survey. So this is really tied into placement. This is we will speak about this at the end of this presentation in more detail, but this is a really important thing for all students to do, because again, we want to put you in the right courses. We don't want to put you in a course that we want to put you in the correct course. And so this survey will help us do that. In addition to that, we have our math placement deadline, our chemistry placement deadline, which you can see here on the slide. We also have a SOAR advising course, which you can find when signing into your single sign-on for CSULB. And you can find that there on Canvas. It's a pretty straightforward introduction to advising and all the different elements to help you get prepared for this fall. And you can find many more details than what I'm sharing here on our Summer SOAR Guidance website. Lastly, if you haven't signed up for SOAR orientation and registration, please do so as soon as you can, because the deadline for that is June 1st. And when you sign up for SOAR orientation and registration, you will be provided 2 different dates. One, which you will be doing registration for your first year courses with us in the Advising Center. And then the other piece will be orientation on campus here at CSULB. So with that, I'm going to advance us to the next part of our presentation and hand it over to Tim. Thank you, Tim.
Okay, great. Thank you, Shannon. Okay, so I'm going to handle more of the the technical aspect of math placement, and so there's a lot of details here. But again, as Shannon mentioned, this presentation will be available online, and a lot of the information is also available on our website, right? The summer guidance website. So there's a lot of information that's being presented in this slide, and we're going to go ahead and sort of break it down into 2 major groups here. So Shannon, if you could advance to the next slide. I want to talk about first of all the white boxes, right? This is where you all are wanting to get to. These are the math courses that are part of your major, right? So these will give you meet major requirements. And for all of our majors in the College of Natural Sciences and Math, it is required at least 1 semester of calculus. And then for some majors, it may require 2 semesters or 3 semesters, or if you're a math major, you have a lot of math classes that you're going to end up doing. But this is where you want to get to. Now, some of you might actually already have some AP credits, AP calculus credits. And so some of you may be starting in calculus, and some of you may be done with your first semester calculus or even your second semester calculus. And we're going to talk more specifically about what it would take, what scores are needed to, and I'm talking AP calculus scores are needed for the various placements here. So this is where everybody's going. And I just kind of point out here, because sometimes there's a little bit of confusion, but as you say, we do have 2 calculus classes, one being Math 119A, Survey of Calculus 1, and then Math 122, Calculus 1. So as you say, they're both calculus classes, but I will say one is specifically geared to biology majors, right? So the first one, Math 119A, that is for biology majors. It was specifically created for what what does a biology major need to be successful, in the program, and then also going forward as in a biological career, right? But everybody else, right? All non-biology majors are on the Math 122 pathway, and we'll get into more specifically, some of the prerequisite courses that some students might need to take in order to qualify for that. Okay, so again, these are the courses that everybody is trying to move towards. And Shannon, if you'd go to the next slide. And as I say, a lot of our students do start in lower level math classes, right? Classes that will help prepare you to get into the calculus courses, and that's perfectly fine. We know that happens, and in fact, probably at least 50 to 60% of all of our students do start with a lower level course. On this chart, it shows you those courses, and Math 112A being our lowest level math class. It's Essential Algebra A, and then it goes on to Essential Algebra B. So it's a year-long course that actually is equivalent to like a Math 113. So again, there's different placements that would put you in Math 112A and a different placement that would put you into Math 113. You also see a Math 111 on there. And Math 111 is our pre-calculus trigonometry. That course is required for the Math 122 pathway, right? And again, that Math 122 pathway is for all non-biology majors. So if you're a biology major, immediately you can forget about Math 111. It's not a course that you need. You would either be taking Math 113 or Math 112A here in the fall semester. So part of what we want to do, and as Shannon mentioned, some of the information you're going to fill out in that survey is going to help us to know, is your placement the best placement for you? Is it going to be Math 112A? Is it going to be Math 113 or a combination Math 113 and Math 111? Are you ready for Math 119A already? Are you done with Calculus 1 because you have AP credit, right? And so this may be a surprise to you, but if you're a biology major that already has calculus credit through AP Calculus or a transfer course, you're actually done with your math requirement for that major. And we do have some students who do fall into that category. And then, for some of you, then you're going to be going on to Math 122. Okay, and just note that, those courses in gray, they do not meet a major specific requirement, right? We put that in red, that's in the red box below. But basically, just so you know, that may be the right place to start, even though it doesn't count directly towards one of the requirements of your degree. It may be the course that you need to be successful when you do get to calculus. And as I mentioned before, about 60% of all of our students, give or take, do start off by having to take a course that's a pre-calculus. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide here, Shannon. Okay, so lots of information on this chart, but first of all, let me just say that this chart is addressing biology majors, and I should add that environmental science and policy BA majors is also part of this group, right? Because they are also on the Math 119A pathway. And as I mentioned, if you took AP Calculus, either AB or BC, and you score a 3 or greater, you actually already have credit for Calculus 1, which means that you are done with your math requirement as part of your degree, right? So that's what that first box, that first semester is saying, you're done. But we know that, a small minority of students, that's their case. Most of our students will be retaking either Math 119A, Math 113, or Math 112. So let's cover the other scenarios. So again, how do you qualify for Math 119A, which is eventually what you all want to get to? One of the ways you could qualify already is if you have an AP Calculus AB score of 2. Okay, so and I would say either 2 on AB or BC will allow you to start in Math 119A. You don't have credit for Calculus 1, but you have a high enough score that actually allows you to place and start in Calc 1 or Math 119A. There's a couple other ways, right? As you see below, the next one says if you have an ALEKS Math placement score of 80 or greater, you are also able to place into Calculus 1. Okay, so I know many of you didn't take AP Calculus in your high school, but there's another way to place, and that is to take the ALEKS Math. And we're going to talk more about how you would do that later in the presentation. The other way is, of course, an SAT score of 630 or greater. Now, I know many of you have not taken SAT because it was not required to get into Cal State Long Beach. So most of you, that's not going to be the case, but occasionally we do see some students who still take it, right? It's still an option to take SAT, and some of you might have chosen to do it. And if you do have a score of 630 or greater, it would qualify for Math 119A. Okay. And then as we go down to the next level, which is Math 113, which is the pre-calculus algebra, there's different ways you can qualify. One would just be if your category, right, your math category comes back, and if we pull it up and it says that you're general education mathematics ready, okay? And that comes from us directly from the CSU. They calculate that. And we were able to pull that information up to see if you fall into that category. Another way, of course, again, going back to Math ALEKS, would be to have a score between 60 and 79. Remember, 80 or higher gets you into Math 119A, but between 60 and 79 can get you into Math 113. Now, there's a little bit of a note here on the bottom, which is just to say that, you know, if you qualify for Math 113, we're also going to look at your high school, overall high school GPA. And if it's a 3.5 or less, then we are going to require that you also take a course called Math 93, which is a support course. This is just another course that's going to help you be successful in the pre-calculus algebra course, right? So just be aware of that, because some of you may start to see that on your course recommendations that we send you in July. And then finally, the last category is Math 112A. So by default, if you don't place in one of the higher level classes, you're going to be in that last class, that Math 112A. And again, we're emphasizing basically what you're going to take the first semester. I just want to mention, you know, this chart does show you what you would take second semester and third semester. Really don't need to get too much into that, right? Because you're really focused on what should I take in this first semester, but it does kind of show you the sequence of courses. So as you go out into later semesters, you can then see what would be the next math course that you would take in order to get all the way through Math 119A and complete it. Okay. So again, this is for all biology majors and environmental science and policy. And again, I know there's lots of scores, lots of information on it, but hopefully this is starting to make sense to you. Okay, Shannon, if we can go to the next one. And also, this is for now non-biology majors, non-environmental science and policy, the BA majors. This is everybody else, right? So biochemistry, chemistry, geology, earth science, mathematics, physics, statistics, and engineering majors, right? They would all be taking, they all have going on the Math 122 pathway. And again, if you have an AP calculus BC score of 3 or higher, you actually have credit for both Calc 1 and Calc 2, and you would be starting in Calc 3 if your major requires you to take Calc 3. And an AP score of AB 3 or greater gives you credit for Calc 1, and you would be starting in Calc 2. And then if you go down, right, again, you can start in Math 122, again, an AP calculus score of 2, either AB or BC. an ALEKS math placement score of 80 or higher, or an SAT score of 680 or greater will also get you into starting with Math 122. And again, we're not going to pay too much attention about semester 2, 3, and 4, but you can see how this, the courses are sequential, and Calc 1 goes to Calc 2, Calc 2 goes to Calc 3, and then it goes on, continues on for math majors. Everybody else, you're already done. Okay. All right, so hopefully this is making sense on this chart. Let's go down, and I'm gonna go to and go back and cover a few more information, a few more different scores that you could use to get into some of the different courses. So Shannon, if you could bring us forward. And I should say, yes, we only covered through 122, right? So we still need to cover Math 113 and Math 111. Again, Math 111 is required for the Math 122 pathway. And this again, if you're ready for general education mathematics, and that's something we see internally, or you took the ALEKS math placement score between 60 and 79, then again, you do qualify for that Math 113. And just know you'd be in this category, you'd be taking 2 math courses, right? You take the pre-calculus algebra and you take the pre-calculus trig in your first semester. And again, the same thing applies for Math 93. If your GPA is less than 3.5, you will also be taking Math 93. And then finally, by default, everybody else would then be starting in Math 112A. And note, if you take the 112A, you don't do trigonometry until the second semester, right? So you do 112A, and then when you take 112B in your second semester, then you pick up the trigonometry class. Okay, so we've got through that section, and if we can go now to the next slide, Shannon. Okay, now I wanted to say there are a few more scores that you could take besides the AP Calculus, the ALEKS, and I wanted to kind of just show you, right? You could have also taken an ACT test, right? So again, if we're talking about Math 119A, another way to qualify is an ACT score of 27 or greater. An SAT2 is the subject test, right? The math subject test 2. This is the level 2, and if you get a 550 or greater, that would also qualify for you. Would also be a qualifying score. Again, we covered AP Calculus A, B, and BC, but some of you could have taken the IB version of the test, right? So mathematics higher level IB test score of 3 would also give you credit for starting in Math 119A. And we don't have too many students take CLEP. This is usually students take this when they're outside of high school. But this is, again, another test by College Board. And if a student does score pre-calculus or college algebra and get a score of 50 or higher, that's another way you can qualify. But for most of you, right, if you don't see any of these test scores, just know that your opportunity to qualify into Math 119A is going to be through the ALEKS placement. And again, scoring 80 or greater, and we have that one in red because I think most of our students will be encouraging them to take the ALEKS math. Okay, we can go to the next one, Shannon. Okay, so again, Math 122. I just want to throw a couple additional scores. We talked about SAT, ACT is a higher score; it's 31. Subject matter SAT 2 is 610. Again, still IB is higher level is a 3, and again, the CLEP is still 50 on that one. So just again, a couple more scores that you could have taken in order to qualify for Math 122. Okay, and if we can go then to the next slide, Shannon. Okay, so Math 113 and Math 111. Again, Math 111 is only for non-biology majors, but again, we're looking at an SAT score of 570. We mentioned that already. But an ACT score of 25 or greater, and then the ALEKS placement of 60 to 79. And then, of course, another way would be if it says that you're ready for general education mathematics. And by the way, that last one, the category general education mathematics, that is based on your high school GPA, right? And a combination of the math courses you have taken, right? I can show you a chart later and in terms of how that happens, but that would be under the math placement for STEM, and that's under the Cal State Long Beach website. And we'll put that in the chat, that specific website, if you want to see those specific GPA cutoffs. Okay, let's go to the next one. And then again, finally, like Math 112A, again, this is the default. Nothing else applies. You don't qualify for any of the higher level courses based on any of the test scores or ALEX. Then a student would start in Math 112A. And just realize also Math 112A also does have a support class. So there's another, and just like Math 93, Math 112A also has a support class. Okay, and you would be taking a support class for Math 112A. Okay, so let's go to the next one here. Oh, and I think this is where I'm going to turn it back over to Shannon to continue on.
Thank you so much, Tim. We really appreciate you going through all of that, and it's very, very helpful. So let's talk a little bit about ALEX, as has been highlighted in some of the slides before. You know, there are different ways that students could place into their first math course at CSU Long Beach. But for students who wish to improve their math placement or do not meet other placement criteria or are still waiting for AP scores from their senior year, we do recommend that you take Math ALEX. ALEX is a free online assessment, so that's the good news, and it helps students get prepared, learn, and potentially place into a higher level of math going into the fall semester. And just, you know, kind of nuts and bolts about it. It's broken up into 4 sections, and each one of those sections, there's an estimated 5 hours of preparation time that's a part of the module, part of the ALEX module. And so, you know, upon completing the first assessment, there is a 48-hour cooling period where students, you know, need to hold off before proceeding to the next assessment. During that time, we encourage students to focus on the 5 hours of prep that is required to go into the next assessment. So you can use those 48 hours in a way to move forward towards that next piece of the assessment. Once a student has achieved a score of 80% or has completed all 4 assessments, they have completed the ALEX assessment. And at that time, we're able to review your scores and see if your placement has been impacted, your math placement. We want to also really just underline that the deadline to complete Math ALEX is June 30th. And so given that there's 4 sections, 4 sections between of assessments, and that there is a 48-hour cooling period between each, we recommend students start on this right away. But if there's any reason that you need to delay, you wouldn't want to start this any later than 2 weeks before this deadline. So mark down the deadline, kind of clock back 2 weeks and say, oh boy, if I haven't already started it by now, I need to start it right away to make sure that I have enough time to complete it. And yeah, how do you find this? How do you find your ALEX math placement? So if you sign into your single sign-on, your CSULB single sign-on, and we'll provide that link in the chat, you'll see a number of buttons or chiclets. There's different ways to call it, but essentially you'll be in your single sign-on a lot for a lot of things. You'll be accessing email, you'll be accessing My Student Center, you'll be accessing your courses, but you can also access ALEX here, and you'll see a square that'll say ALEX Calculus Placement. Go ahead and click on that, and you can get started. So moving towards you know, the first semester chemistry courses, for students who require chemistry for their major, there are 3 different chemistry courses available for first-time, first-year students this fall. Starting from the left with Chemistry 111B, this is the most advanced of the 3 chemistry courses. Students may place into this course by earning a score of 4 or 5 in AP Chemistry. They may also place there by successfully transferring a college level equivalent to Chem 111A. So those are the 2 ways to get into Chem 111B. Moving to the middle here with Chem 111A, students can be placed in this, in Chem 111A, if they earn a score of 2 or 3 on AP Chemistry, or they achieve a score of 80% mastery in Chem ALEX, or if they're calculus ready. And calculus ready means that the student has placed into Calculus 1 for this fall, or if the student is calculus done, meaning that they have successfully completed and transferred in a Calculus 1 course or greater. And in addition to that, the student has earned an A or B in their high school chemistry class. And then finally, for students who don't place into Chem 111A or B, those students will start in Chem 102. And this course will review some concepts that were taught in high school. And upon successful completion of Chem 102, you'll be prepared to move on to Chem 111A in your next semester. So as we mentioned kind of at the top of the presentation, we have a first year advising survey for students in CNSM. And we just really want to emphasize that it's important to take this survey, and we might be able to drop that survey link in the chat again. But you can also find it on our website. You can also find it in the email you received earlier this week, among other resources. Why is this survey so important? It's important because the information that you share with us in there will help us appropriately place you based on your chemistry and math preparation. Again, we want to make sure that you are starting off in the correct classes for you. We want to make sure that you're walking into that first day of classes with confidence that you're going to be able to succeed in these classes. And placement is a huge part of that, to make sure that you're prepared. And so, you know, this, in addition to the information that you'll share, which will include, you know, grades that you earned in specific high school courses, if you took AP or IB or CLEP exams, there'll be an opportunity to add that information, as well as any transfer courses that you may have taken and may apply. So, you know, this information is important to us, but in addition to the information you'll share about placement, we'll also ask you to share a little bit about, you know, how many hours are you planning to work in the fall? Will you be commuting? What's kind of the time frame around that? Will you have other obligations that will take up some of the time in your schedule? And this is all to help us, again, as advisors, as your advisors that will be working with you, is to make sure that you have a schedule that's balanced so that you feel supported, and that you feel like you can do all the things that you need to do and do them successfully. So, you know, this advisement survey really does help us help you start off in a way that makes you feel strong, so that you can continue on strong as you move through your course requirements. So, just one note on this, you know, hey, we need that advisement survey by June 15th. Again, you can find this survey, I think we've thrown it in the chat, but you can also find it in the email you received earlier this week. And you can find it on our much mentioned incoming guidance website for first year students in CNSM. So those are the places to check it out. And then of course, you can always reach out to us using our CNSM advising email if you have any questions that can't be answered in those places. So I'm going to go ahead and bring us to the Q&A here, and just, you know, invite any students out there. If there are any questions that you've really been wanting to ask, if you want to throw them into the Q&A for us, we welcome that. So we'll give you guys a minute or two to throw any other last questions you may have.
And Jen, I'm just going to mention, some of you have been asking questions already. And so if you look into the Q&A, you will see some of the questions have already been answered. So you can go through it. There's not too many right now. There's been 6. So if you can look to see if your question has already been answered. But if you have a question that we haven't touched upon, go ahead and put that in. Again, just be aware that we're trying to keep this more general than specific to your circumstances, right? So again, let's see if anybody else has some additional questions that are coming up. There's been some good ones in here, and maybe I'll just kind of cover one right here. Somebody was asking about AP stats, right? Does it count, right? And So it does count for elective credit. AP is not a required course in any of our majors, but it does come in as Statistics 108 here at Cal State Long Beach. So it will count towards the 120 units that you need to graduate. It also does automatically put you in the GE ready, the math ready category. So you would be able to start with Math 113 for your particular major, or Math 111, right? Or and also Math 111 if you're on the Math 122 pathway. But again, you might be ready to, if you took any pre-calculus also in high school, you might be ready to, you might be able to start in actual calculus. So again, we would still encourage you to take the ALEX Math to see if you could indeed qualify for for calculus.
So just wanted to note, if there are any questions that are kind of not related to math and chemistry placement, we invite you to email us at the email address that was provided in the chat today. That way we can answer it specifically for you later on. Well, we'll give it just another minute here. While you're maybe thinking of one last question, just really want to thank you so much for, spending this time with us, giving us an opportunity to share this information with you. We really look forward to meeting you. It's only a few months away, which kind of seems crazy, but so we thank you for showing up today, and we really do appreciate the questions. It looks like there might be a few more coming through. So I'll go ahead and answer the question, where can I get this recording? So it's a great question. So do please give us just a couple of days to upload this video, but we're going to put it on that same incoming guidance website that we've spoken of a couple of times today. So you'll be able to find that webinar there, and any future webinars that we do upon completing them, give us a few days to kind of get it in good shape, and then we'll be posting it up there so you'll have a chance to review it.
So let me answer this one, Shannon. There's one here. If your major requires you to complete calculus in your first year, but you don't place high enough on the ALEX test, what does that mean for my major, right? So that would be a scenario where a student would be starting in Math 112A, right? Which means then you go the next semester, you go to Math 112B. And again, it may be Math 111 if you're on the Math 122 calculus pathway. And again, you're not through calculus in that first year, right? Because then you need the third semester to be able to do calculus. And so we understand that, right? We understand if a students who start in Math 112A, there's no way for them to complete calculus in their first year. We don't usually recommend students take it in the summer to try to squeeze it in that first year. So we're just going to go ahead and extend the deadline for an additional semester. And of course, we're extending that with the understanding that hopefully you're doing really well in your Math 112A and your Math 112B. So it makes sense to continue on to doing calculus in your third semester. Okay. Okay. And let's see, I think we have another question here. If a bio major doesn't score very high on the ALEX assessment, would having taken a general pre-calculus course affect their math placement? Well, I guess it means what you mean by having taken a general pre-calculus course, right? If you took it in high school, right? If you took a pre-calculus course in high school, it doesn't mean you automatically then qualify for calculus, right? So it's not like in high school, you finish one and then you move on to the next. Here, You do have, it is based on assessment, right? So SAT score, AP calculus score, ALEX score, ACT score. So again, we would require some kind of ALEX score. Now, ALEX could place you into that Math 113 pre-calculus, right? We talked about that was the score between 60 and 79. If you score below a 60, you could still start in Math 112A, right? It is possible for that to be the case, but most students who usually took a pre-calculus class in high school and did well, you would think you would be at least starting pre-calculus again here in Cal State Long Beach, your first semester in college, or higher, right? So again, the emphasis is to really make use of ALEX math, right? Again, you got the 4 assessments you could do. So you could take the first test or the first assessment, and let's say that first assessment, you get like a 45. Okay, we'll do the 5 hours of practice. Wait the 48-hour period, which is going to give you that time to practice. Take the next assessment. Most students do better on the next assessment, right? Because they start to remember things that they forgot. And maybe that's going to get you closer to that 60 score. Maybe you're going to hit 55, right? And you go, okay, I know I can keep doing it, right? So you do 5 hours of practice, 48 hours go on, you take the third assessment, and let's say now you hit 61. Well, you know, you hit the 61, you could stop. You've actually placed into the pre-calculus algebra, Math 113. But let's say you want to go one more time and a couple more hours of practice, and let's say you hit 80. Okay, now on that fourth assessment, we're going to use the highest score on any assessment you take. That 80 will then place you into the Math 119A. So just keep going. You know, ALEX is also kind of a smart learning system. It's going to kind of help you teach you the stuff you need to learn again, right? Some things that you might have forgotten, and it will help you progress if you continue to take the assessments. Okay.
So I'll go ahead and answer, thank you for that, Tim. I'll go ahead and answer this question. Is the SOAR course registration you mentioned earlier only for math courses or all? So what I would advise you to do is, you know, the number one thing you're going to need to do is sign up for SOAR right away if you haven't already. And SOAR will sign you up for orientation and your registration. For additional deadlines in terms of taking math assessments, in terms of completing your survey, your incoming survey, and other important key deadlines, go ahead and refer to the website that we've shared for incoming students, and you'll see all of those dates and deadlines, including links to really key information there. They'll make it pretty clear the order of things you need to do and the deadlines associated with them.
You guys are really asking some great questions here on the Q&A. So I just want to commend you for really thinking this through. So excellent in terms of the questions that you're asking. And by the way, we're also going to, the Q&A, the questions and the answers, we're also going to publish that, and so make that available so you can also see that on the website. And we see there's one here, where are the practice tests located? And I think you're probably talking about the ALEX assessments, right? I think, is that how you would read that, Shannon? The practice?
I believe so.
Yeah, if that's what you mean. Okay, yes. So we did get a confirmation on that. So again, to get to those, and they're really, if you think about practice tests, they're kind of, well, they're assessments. It is kind of practice, like the first one. You can consider that a practice, because then you can go on and take a second assessment, right? And on that second assessment, if you're still not happy with it, you can go on to a third one, right? So in a sense, they're all practice until you're happy with the score you got, right? So and again, it's either 4 and you're exhausted all your attempts, or maybe you get a really high score, you get like an 85 or 90 on one, you're just happy with that. You can stop if you get that 80% or higher on one of the assessments. But again, how do you find that? You're going to go on to your single sign-on, right? And you're going to do that a lot here as a student here at Cal State Long Beach, because everything is going to be found on your single sign-on. And then you're going to look for the ALEKS chiclet, and then you're going to go ahead and hit the chiclet, and that's going to precede you for being able to take the ALEKS assessments or practice tests.
And I would maybe just add to that as well. You know, it's really important when taking the, if you choose, and we hope you do for most students, take the Math ALEKS assessment, is that you do it on your own. You know, use the tools that are provided in that assessment. It's important that, you know, you're presenting your work in these assessments, because as we all know, the goal of it is to place you in the appropriate level, so that you are you're put into the right class moving into the fall.
Okay. And Shannon, well, here's an important question. Yeah, we definitely want to make sure we clarify this one, right? So a student saying, I'm a math major, do I need to take the chem class? Well, here's the good news. No, you don't, right? It is not required as a math major to take chemistry. So it's not a required course. You will be taking a course as a math major for physical science, but all math majors, I'll say, will take physics for their physical science. So if you want to take chemistry because you actually like chemistry, and you know, sometimes we do find students who actually, and even math majors who actually do like chemistry, you could take it, but it's certainly not part of your program, right? And this also goes for physics majors, right? As a physics major, unless you go into the material science side of physics, right? Also, chemistry is not required. But good question, yeah. So a math major, don't have to worry about it. We want you to focus on the math portion, the math chem. But everybody else who's listening to this webinar, right? So if you're a chemistry, biochemistry, geology, or science, BS, and even the BA would also take a chemistry class. A biology major, right? Then yes, it would make sense to also do the to see if you could qualify already for the Chem 111A. And again, that would be if you're calculus ready, right? Your Math ALEKS is going to place you in Math 119A or Math 122 this fall semester, right? And if that happens, you just have to have taken high school chemistry and get an A or a B, and that would allow you to place. Now, if you know that maybe that's your situation, that's going to happen for you, we do know that taking the ALEKS chemistry is optional for you, right? It might help to sort of refresh some of that high school chemistry. It's not required for you to take, but it would be something that you could take optionally. And we may have some additional resources, by the way, towards the end of the summer to help you do some refreshing. So just kind of keep posted for that. We'll let you know if and when we get those resources available for you. But yeah, great question. Okay. And I think that's the last one I see, Shannon, in terms of the questions.
Well, again, we want to thank you so much. I want to thank my co-presenter, Tim, for taking us through those details. And thank you for the, I won't name any names, but the folks behind the scenes that are making this all work as well, who are helping us out here. And most of all, thank you for showing up. We look forward to getting to know you better as the fall comes along. And like I said, keep checking your emails, because we're going to be sending you a lot of them. And I know, you know, it can feel like a lot, but don't worry, we're here. And so if you, you know, as you're reading through those emails, and if you come across stuff that you're not quite sure what the answer is, you can always reach out to us, and we're happy to help you. So again, have a wonderful evening, and we look forward to reconnecting with you soon.
Okay, bye-bye, everyone. Take care. Go Beach. Go ALEKS. Okay.
Go Beach.